think one of the things that excites me about it as well is that with the 5 fish, and I didn't know it was going to be this way, but I feel like I'm seeing guys throwing some glide baits and things like that you might not have seen, some bigger fish hunting kind of baits that you might not have seen, and it just makes the sport more exciting. Glide bait fish, so exciting. Well, get those life vests zipped and clipped, strap down those rods, and stow away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bass to Anglers podcast. I'm your host, Keith Nicewonger, and I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 in your live well. Special thanks to our partners who make this podcast possible. Bass Go Fishing is the official wardrobe sponsor of the Bass to Anglers podcast. Bass Go Fishing is making bass fishing fun again. Have you seen the new styles, the new colors that Bass Go Fishing has just dropped? Be sure to check out all the new styles, all the new colors by going to their website, bassgofishing.com. Of course, you know we are the Western representatives for Duckett Fishing, pro-driven rods, reels, and baits. Duckett's building a Western presence, and if you haven't seen it yet, you soon will. New independent dealerships are popping up all the time. Find out about the Duckett lineup of pro-driven rods, reels, and baits by going to their website, duckettfishing.com. We are very excited to introduce our newest podcast partners, the good folks at Bait Pop. Bait Pop is a forward-facing live electronics intensifier. Rub a little Bait Pop on your favorite bait and watch it pop on your live electronics. Brought to you by the folks at The Original Fish Formula. Check out Bait Pop by going to theoriginalfishformula.com. RedCrest 2023, I had a chance to corner Major League Fishing pro and longtime friend Kelly Jordon, and we talked about the new format changes and frog fishing. But first, if you like the content we produce on this channel, hit the subscribe button. Tell them, Larry.
Get her done.
Like this video. Leave us a comment if you're not afraid. We're building our viewership, and your follows make a big difference. I've known Kelly Jordon since we were both a lot younger than we are today. Over the years, Kelly has always been forthright and willing to talk about the sport, and he has a very special insight to how the current landscape of the sport is unfolding. This week at RedCrest, we had the opportunity to witness what happens to a 5-fish limit when you add scoretracker to the mix. The results were spectacular. Kelly Jordon has a unique perspective on all of this that is going down, and if you look really close, you see a little twinkle in his eye that says, yeah, this is awesome. One of the great benefits about being at RedCrest is that there's lots of pros walking around, and it's always fun to grab them and talk to them. We've got Kelly Jordon. Kelly, you and I go back a long ways.
Yeah, I would give up how old I am if I told you how long that was.
And I would give up how old I was.
27, by the way.
Yeah. Still look
in my
Still
dreams.
look it, sir. Still look it. Amazing. I mean, you were one of the pioneers of this movement, Major League Fishing. Is this what you envisioned?
Well, you know, it's just stuff keeps growing. You have great people that do great things around you. I'm just happy to be around this with some great anglers, some great minds that start all this, and then the great anglers come in. That's what makes this thing work, and it's been an amazing process seeing this whole thing, you know, come about, and here we are. Great event, packed. It's all the lines waiting outside, and the fishing is great on Lake Norman. It's a great event. I wish I was fishing out there, but hey, this is a great show to see.
So, You know, a lot was said this year about whether Major League Fishing going to the 5-fish limit was, it's going to change, and anything like, it's going to be. But the one thing that's constant about the way it was with every fish counts and the way it is now with 5 fish is the doggone score tracker. That's amazing, isn't it? What is it like to fish in a tournament like that?
The game changer is the score tracker. Every fish counts. Some people like it, some people don't. There are some lakes I wish that it was there, and some that I would rather it be 5 fish. Hey, it is what it is. We still have bows. It depends which event that we're fishing. Every fish is still in the team events and some of the other, in the heavy hitters, I believe. But yeah, so it's kind of a, they did a bunch of looking at the results, and the biggest 5 would still have won a lot of the events that every fish counted in. So now I think it changes that game a little bit. Guys can slow down, maybe fish their strengths a little bit differently, target some larger fish a little bit more. But the score tracker is still what makes that happen, because when you know where you are, it's the same thing it always was. If you got to climb the mountain, you know you got to climb the mountain and you're way behind. If you're in the lead, you know guys are looking for you and shooting for you and breathing down your back of your neck the whole time. Just like we saw Dustin Cannell pull that fish out at the end of the first round and took Brent Ayler for the lead the first day. That was just crazy. Stuff like that happens. It still happens.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think one of the things that excites me about it as well is that with the 5 fish, and I didn't know it was going to be this way, but I feel like I'm seeing guys throwing some glide baits and things like that you might not have seen, some bigger fish hunting kind of baits that you might not have seen, and it just makes the sport more exciting. Glide bait fish, so exciting.
So, one of the things having the 5 fish limit does is it frees you to be able to do that kind of stuff, because you're not afraid of somebody getting on a school of good fishing coming from nowhere.
Right.
You did not have that freedom in the every fish counts. When you practice and you know what's going down, that becomes a problem. In an event where we have no practice and you just go fishing, it doesn't really matter. You're just fishing for all you can catch. It's a whole different mindset. It's a beautiful thing watching these guys pull out these big baits and do some techniques now to really try to make a difference now. And the reason that they can do that even more so is because they do have the score tracker. They know exactly where they are.
Yes, absolutely.
You can throw the Hail Mary, which is what they're doing. You can try the long bomb. You can go to a 2-minute offense. You can just boom, boom, boom. Try to do that. It may not work out, but it might. It sets up the opportunity for some great things to happen, and some big fish catches, and some moves in the score tracker that, hey, we're still learning as we go how this affects, and we're seeing the ripples of this new format, and it's a pretty amazing thing to see.
What I think is exciting is that the pros have adapted to it almost immediately. Well, I mean, not that they had to adapt to it. This is the way they used to fish, but they've adapted to it with that score tracker thing that's added to it. And I don't know. I think I'm noticing more rods on deck. I think I'm noticing bigger fish techniques that are kind of sliding in there. I mean, I got to believe up at the lake today, there's guys that are catching pound and 3/4 spots that have 5 of them now and need a bigger bite. Another pound and 3/4 spot's not going to help.
Do anything for them. They better switch gears.
So I mean, we got to go to maybe an 8-inch glide bait or something like that, and see if you can't. And that actually probably worked pretty well up there. Those fish got to be close to. I heard this morning Dustin Connell saying that the water was 60 degrees. To me, that's.
Well, there have been some spawning fish caught.
I
do know. I talked to an angler. I don't want to say his name because maybe he doesn't want to know, but. He was eliminated yesterday, but he told me that he hooked a fish over 8 pounds, possibly even 10.
Oh my gosh.
And he had seen it for 2 days, and he finally got it to bite, and he lost it yesterday. I mean, that fish, the biggest fish is still a 6-pounder?
Yeah, I think from the first day, right?
Yeah, and that's a really big fish for Norman. But to hear about this big fish, and this is from a guy that when he says he's on a big one, I 100% guarantee it was a big one, because he knows, and he catches them all the time. And he was just disgusted. And I'm like, oh, that would have been 8-pounder on Norman. And he said it was probably bigger. His boat official said he had him come up and look at the fish, and his boat official said it was the biggest bass he'd ever seen in his life.
Oh my gosh.
So that can still happen. So again, like you said, these guys had the luxury to keep coming back and fish for that fish, because that is a game changer this week, is a big fish.
So while I got you here, I'm kind of a I like to hear pros talk about their rods. You've got a couple rods in the Ducket series. Tell us about the rods that you have in the Ducket series and how you came about designing those.
So I like a utility rod. Okay, so that technique specific, but something that I'm comfortable with, and it covers a lot of ground. So I have a 7-foot medium heavy action, which is my ultimate utility rod. Okay, I can do everything from, and if I ever got in a bind, like say I had some rods fly out of the boat, or they got broken, or somebody stole some rods, I could throw everything from a deep diving crankbait on that rod, to a Texas rig worm, to a swim jig, to a swim bait, to a sight fish, a Carolina rig, spinner bait, anything, square bill.
That medium power action is a really nice action.
Yes.
You're right, for all those things you're talking about. That's good.
And then I got to step up with the heavy action. The heavy action to me is, don't let it scare you, the heavy. One of the things I have incorporated in all my rods I design, I like a pretty soft tip. Now, my medium heavy has that, and my heavy action has it as well. That gives you a little bit more sensitivity, believe it or not, than a really totally stiff rod. It's a little bit lighter. You can feel a little bit more, and it's more forgiving when you're feeling the fish when they bite, to try to tell if the fish has it or not. And we're talking mostly stuff that requires a lot of feel, like a Texas rig, worm, pitching, flipping, jig, Carolina rig, some other stuff like that, even a soft plastic, like a Cinco. It's got that soft tip. That also did just two things. It's more sensitive, you can feel them better, and also at the same token, the fish can't feel you as well, because there is a little bit of give there, and if they make a quick move, you can go ahead and give it to them a little bit easier, and then a little bit ways down the rod is the brick wall on that heavy action. And you can, when you're around big fish on heavy line, heavy cover, sometimes you need that power to get them out, set the hook, especially on longer casts. If you're making long casts, it is phenomenal. I mean, I love it.
Last year, we watched you on a lake up in Wisconsin, I want to say, on a frog bite. A lot of guys were fishing the smallmouth, offshore stuff, but there was Kelly Jordon up in the pad.
It was awesome.
And you were killing it.
That was my first event with my heavy action rod.
Okay. Now, and which one is that?
The 7-foot heavy action.
7-foot heavy action rod. So you're not just throwing, you're throwing a frog on that. A little bit of give, so when that fish bites, he doesn't get jerked out of his mouth.
Well, like I said, don't let the heavy scare you. It's not an overpowering heavy. It's got plenty of backbone, but it still has a soft tip. It's not a parabolic action, but it's got a nice soft tip, so you can work that frog or another bait pretty good. The sensitivity, the workability.
7 foot.
It's really light. It's just perfect for that. And then, especially on a frog and heavy cover, and I was making really long casts. The key to that was I was trying to cover a lot of water. It was all very, very, very shallow. And a lot of times, the farther you can get your bait away from your boat, the less the fish know you're there, and you get a lot more bites, actually. Not all situations with the frog, but that was the case up there. And then a long ways off, I had the tip to be able to work that frog just right. If you little twitches with the frog, you make it kind of walk the dog and stop it, and you can hit a hole and give it a couple light twitches and it'll almost not even move and turn. That triggers a big bite a lot of times. And then I had the backbone of that heavy action rod to drive that hook home with that braided line, 50 feet away, and power that fish through the stuff. And I really thought I had an opportunity to possibly win that tournament.
Oh yeah, you were right there.
In my mind, it was a shootout between me and Jacob Wheeler. He's catching smallmouth. I was catching largemouth. The bad thing for me was, at the end of the first period, him and I were almost toe-to-toe. I think I was maybe 3 or 4 pounds back. I was gaining on him a little bit. I said, man, this is going to get good. The wind got up and started blowing harder and harder. I thought it would be better for my fish, but what it actually did was it blew the water out of my area, like that happens in Florida. The water went down. Could not believe it. I was just, by the end of the second period, my boat was dragging the bottom and making a mud trail, and all the fish. I never caught a squirrel bass after halfway through the second period. They just swam out. Now there was big underwater grass, but submergent grass farther out. I didn't know that would happen. I didn't know where they went. I didn't know what to do. They left where I was fishing, and I guess that happens a lot up there. A place I don't fish a lot, like Champlain.
Yeah.
That water went down the fish, and I was left high and dry and fell all the way. It was a great turn. I loved it. It was awesome, but I feel like that one got away. I thought I was going to contend, and the wind got me.
That's kind of an Okeechobee thing. We hear about that in Okeechobee, the wind literally blowing the water out of an area. And we see that on the Delta in California sometimes. You get tide and the wind, and all of a sudden, hey, I was fishing that spot yesterday. It's out of the water now.
I had no idea it would do it there, but it did. And I kept trying to figure out what's going on. And then, like I said, when my boat started dragging the bottom, I'm like,
no more water.
I get it now. I am done. I don't know what to do. And the wind was blowing so hard that the waves were this big on the main lake. I couldn't move, go somewhere else.
Right.
So, hey, stuff happens sometimes. I was happy to be there, but it was man, catching fish on a frog in a tournament and having a top 10.
Absolutely.
With an ability to possibly win on a frog is just, man, that I hope everybody gets that chance because that is so fun. So fun. Top water.
Kelly, thanks for being with us. It's very good catching up with you.
Always.
Got to do this more often.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you very much. Kelly Jordon, everybody. You can sure see the excitement in Kelly Jordon's eyes. Sure, he'd like to be fishing this event, but he knows that in the bigger picture, this new format with the score tracker is going to take this sport to a whole new level. Be sure to keep checking back with us. We have a ton of content from Redcrest 2023, a lot of stuff that I think you're going to really enjoy. That's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, keep both hands on the wheels, keep those live feds zipped and clipped, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again very soon.